Hello, hello. So I've been thinking. I created this episode the other day. It's the last one that was released, and it was about the one thing that if I could only teach you one thing, this is what I would want to teach you. And if you haven't listened to that episode yet, I highly recommend that you do that first and then come back to this one because here, what I'm going to do is give you an exercise, something I've had every single one of my clients do. So you might have heard me mention at the end of the last episode that this is something that I've given to my clients and I could send it out in writing, which I still may do. But for now, what I would like to do is actually run you through this exercise with some explanation. I even pulled up an example from the first client that I had in my little portal. So I could give you an example too of a real life thing that somebody wrote. And then I'll give you some other ways to think about this for yourself. So, what I recommend is listen to this episode the whole way through without doing the exercise. And then later, when you have time and you can then sit down and do the exercise. So, this exercise I call your 10 reasons why. So, just to kind of recap the basic things that we talked about in last week's episode, where your attention goes, your energy flows. So, a lot of us, when we're struggling with a problem, it's very natural for us to focus and fixate even on that problem. Now, the reason why this becomes then problematic is because we're hyper fixated on exactly what we don't want. And as we know, the laws of energetics is the more we're focused on something, the more we actually draw that to us. Why? Because then our thinking starts to center around it. Then our actions start to center around it. Our whole behaviors and consciousness and personality can start to center around it the more we focus on it. So focus is an incredibly powerful force of your mind, and we need to use it strategically. If we use this in the wrong way or carelessly, we can very easily attract exactly what it is that we don't want, which is what a lot of us are doing with food. And I gave even the example of sugar that I used to be so obsessed with sugar and I would do these sugar-free challenges and I would be researching obsessively all the horrible things that can happen to your body when you eat too much sugar, hoping that would motivate me based on fear. So I was really hyper obsessed with sugar. But if I was honest with myself about what it is that I truly wanted, I wanted to not be thinking about sugar. I wanted to be focused on me and my life and for sugar to not even be an issue. I wanted to be able to go to a party and someone offers me cake and I'm like, sure. And then maybe I'll have a couple bites of cake and then I'm not thinking about it. Instead, what was happening was even if I told myself, oh, it's okay, just have a few bites, those few bites would turn into 5 nonstop days of binging on sugar. And I didn't realize how much of a role that my focus and my mind was playing in how much I was training myself to obsess over sugar. And I gave this example. If you're on my email list, you might have seen this this morning. I sent out an analogy like imagine you're an actor and you need to learn the role and step into the role of this character. Who are you going to be studying? You're going to be studying that character, how they think, how they feel, how they talk to people, how they act. And you're not going to be studying all the other characters, right? You're not going to be pretending to be the villain if the role that you're playing is the hero. You're going to be practicing the one that you need to embody, that you need to step into. And the more that you rehearse that character, it becomes more automatic. It becomes your muscle memory. It becomes how you naturally are. So that way, when you do say your lines, it doesn't sound like you're acting. You're really embodying that character in that moment. So with food, what are you mentally rehearsing? What thoughts are you repeating again and again to the point where it becomes your identity? I remember one time, I'll just go on this side tangent for a minute, but I remember one time I went to an Overeaters Anonymous meeting. What I found in these meetings was there were so many people who it was like binge eating became their identity. Like, I'm a binge eater, I'm a food addict. All of their community was fellow binge eaters, fellow strugglers. And I remember sitting in that environment thinking, no, this is not me. I don't want to be reinforcing again and again that this is my identity because they were under the assumption that this is who you are, that this is something that you have to permanently manage. And in my heart of hearts, I didn't believe that this was truly who I was. I had been struggling with it for a long time, but I knew deep down that this isn't really me. And if I did somehow release myself from this problem, the real me would be able to shine through. So know that that's the lens that I'm approaching change through, not through the lens that you're not good enough. You are good enough. There's just this dark cloud that's been hovering over you and it's affecting all of your thoughts and actions. So let's get into the exercise now. So I'm just going to go part by part. Remember, you don't have to do this as I'm talking about it. As I'm talking about it, though, let your mind kind of think. See what just comes up first, what comes up naturally for you, because that's what to pay attention to the most. So there's going to be 3 parts to this exercise. So let's just go through part 1 right now. So, part 1 of the 10 reasons why exercise is without editing or filtering yourself at all. Just write down your 10 reasons why that, well, in the case of my clients, the exact words is write your 10 reasons why you decided to invest in yourself because they made a significant financial investment. They're making a significant time investment. They're making a significant energy investment in order to really change the trajectory of this area of their life. This is becoming their main priority focus. So for your purposes today, what I would encourage you to think about is 10 reasons why you want this outcome so badly, why you want this, why this is so important for you to change right now. 10 reasons why this is so important. Don't filter at all. Just write your 10 reasons why. So right now, what I'll do is I'll go through a real example that one of my clients had written, and I'm going to give you a little bit of my commentary here for part 1. So her 10 reasons why. Number 1, I don't want to live like this anymore. Too much mental energy is spent on something that should be a natural activity. I am tired of obsessing about my eating and weight. So notice how in this one, she's saying what she doesn't want. And this is fine because in this first part, we're not filtering. We're just writing what we want, what we don't want, whatever comes to mind. But notice how, based on what I talked about in the last episode, eventually we're going to need to go a layer deeper than this because right now she's only focusing on what she doesn't want. Number 2, I want to be free of the hypervigilance around what I eat, when I eat it, and how much I eat. So again, she's talking about what she doesn't want, all this hypervigilance, all this constant thinking about food. Number 3, I want to stop the cycle of overeating, restricting, shaming myself, repeat. Another example of what she doesn't want. And this is important. Like, I don't want you to think I'm minimizing just by saying that we're going to flip the script and focus on what we do want, because where your attention goes, your energy flows. It's still extremely important to know what you don't want. And this might have changed from when you first started your journey. When you first started your journey, you might have been all about the restrictions. But now at this point, you see that they haven't gotten you to where you want to go. So now you're pivoting, and this is good. We're meant to change, okay? Number 4, she wrote, I want to appreciate my body and the foods I choose to nourish it with. So that actually is in the positive, right? She's saying, I want actually to appreciate my body. That's a skill that can be cultivated. That's something that can be created and built. Number 6, I want to enjoy the remainder of my life without an eating disorder. I got emotional just now reading that. That was a big one that would come up for me. I think the reason why that just touched my heart is because for me, looking back, I would see this time that I had felt like I had wasted, like wasted hating myself, wasted being hard on myself. And there was that book also that came out on the 5 regrets of the dying. And I still ask myself this question. If this was the end of my life, what would I regret most? And what's been coming up for me most lately actually has been how unkind I've been to myself. And it's really important to me that, especially since it's a given that I'll be going through this life with Katie Papo, and I'm the only one that I have who's going to be with me through everything. It's important to me to have a relationship with myself for the rest of my life where I truly feel that care and that support and that love. So that that touched my heart just now. Okay, so number 7. Oh, this is so good. She said, I don't want my relationships to continue to be hurt by my bad moods and stress that are caused by my preoccupation or shame surrounding my eating habits or my weight. I relate to this because I remember my mom, as you guys know, my mom has a lot to do with my story. And when I was younger and my mom was really struggling with food, if something happened around food that where something didn't go her way or she fell off of the plan, I would see how that affected how she treated us. It's like me and my sister, my dad. So many of us, because we've kept this as a hidden shame, we don't necessarily think about how this affects other people because we think we're so good at hiding it. But our loved ones feel our energy. Our loved ones can feel our anxiety. They can feel our stress. And sometimes, yeah, we do lash out. So the fact that she noticed that my family is being hurt by my bad moods, to me, that's an important thing to acknowledge because now your reason why is expanding even beyond you. And that's especially a good reframe for those of us who think that taking care of ourselves or investing in ourselves or prioritizing our health is selfish. It's not selfish. I mean, I used to view it as being selfish, but the way that I view it now is that this is my responsibility. If I'm responsible for other people, not only do I need to be the best possible example, but I want to be the most nurturing version of myself. And therefore, I need to be able to give from a full cup. So it's your responsibility if you are responsible for other people to take care of yourself, to invest in yourself, to put yourself first, because you are an energy source for a lot of others. So don't see it as selfish to prioritize yourself. You are the most important investment you can ever focus on. I hope these tangents, by the way, are helpful for you. I know that it's taking us a little longer to get through this exercise, but I hope that there's little nuggets in here that you can take too. Okay, number 9. I want to feel safe having certain foods in my house without the fear of overeating at all. So here she did position part of it in the positive, part of it in the negative, because she said how she does want to feel. She wants to feel safe having certain foods in the house. And then she posed the negative without the fear, right? I don't want to have the fear of eating all of it. And this is so doable, by the way, so doable. For those of you who are planning to join the newest evolution of my program when I release it in the next couple weeks, I mean, your mind's just gonna, your mind's gonna be so blown so fast. Okay, number 10, she said, I want peace and freedom from the food noise and obsessive behaviors once and for all. Peace and freedom, I would say, were my 2 North Star words. And when I actually created my program, every single time I've created it, and I'm actually going through this right now as we speak, I'm going through every single lesson that's in there, every single exercise that I have. And the question that I always filter as I'm giving something to my clients is, will this bring them more peace with food? Will it bring them more freedom with food? Will this help them eat in a healthier way naturally? Will this help them to listen to and trust their body to benefit their health? Like, all of these things are my filters, but I also need to know what we don't want, right? We don't want the obsession. We don't want the compulsion. Therefore, I cannot include anything, not one thing, that would reinforce obsession or would reinforce compulsion. And a lot of programs out there, even though they position themselves as, oh, just follow this diet and you'll never have to think of food again and you'll be totally free. When you actually look at the strategy and the methodology, they do reinforce obsession and compulsion. So that's why it's important to know both sides. Like the last episode I told you, it's all about where your attention goes, your energy flows. That doesn't mean you disregard what you don't want and you don't think about it. You have to be very clear what you don't want, very clear what you do want. Okay, so we went through her 10 reasons why. So that is part 1. Now, part 2 is where we do the flip. And we can see, as I talked through it when we were going through her part 1, there were certain reasons that she wrote that were in the negative. So the idea in part 2 is to see the negative and to start to get your mind to think about, okay, well, what's the affirmative version of that? Because like I said, when you're studying for a role, if you're an actor, if you focus on the roles that you're not playing, you're going to end up learning those roles. You're going to learn the wrong roles. So we have to focus on what are we tuning into now? What's the frequency that I'm tuning into now? So a lot of this, we can just ask ourselves, what's the opposite? What's the opposite? We won't go through all of them. But for number 2, she said, I want to be free of the hypervigilance around what I eat, when I eat, how much I eat. So again, this is what she doesn't want. She's talking about, I don't want hypervigilance anymore. I don't want to have to constantly think about this. So how did she turn this into the affirmative? Let's see. She wrote, I eat when I'm hungry. I stop when I'm full. It's as simple and easy as that. So notice how this is starting to form the North Star here, right? This is going to filter out paths that she might have done in the past. Like she might have gone on a diet where you have to eat at certain times of the day or you have to eat certain amounts. She's saying, I want to eat when I'm hungry. So that's going to immediately cut out anything where they say, well, you have to eat at this time or you have to eat this amount or it has to be like this. Basically, what she's alluding to is she wants her body to be the leader of this relationship, which is an excellent place to start putting your attention towards because who's the one doing the eating here? Is it our mind? No, it's our body. Our body is physically the one doing the eating. So if we can't trust our body when it comes to eating, who can we trust? That's the only one who's actually doing it. If we're going to outsource our trust to somebody on the outside, but completely disregard how our body even feels, right? Some of us need to learn how to retrust our body. Some of us have to regain our hunger and fullness signals because they're all warped from all the things that we've done. This is going to start shining a light on your path. Okay, so I see one now that I want to skip to because this is where she kind of slipped back into the negative even as she was trying to form the affirmative. So I'm going to help by showing you how we can make this more affirmative. So what she wrote in the affirmative was, I respect and actually listen to what my body is telling me in terms of fullness cues so I don't overeat. So, okay, that's pretty much affirmative. But then here she writes, I also don't use food to soothe emotions or overeat out of boredom or other habits. So notice how so quickly she slipped back into the negative, even as she's working on the affirmative. So the way I might turn this affirmative would be, I feel my feelings. I soothe myself in so many different ways. I'm really good at taking care of myself. So notice how this is something I can create, right? Like if my North Star is, I don't use food to soothe, I don't eat my emotions, like how do I build that? I'm still going to be so focused on food because then my thoughts when I'm emotional and craving it are going to be like, well, I can't use food, so I have to think of something other than food. But then even when I've done those things, like I'll go take a walk or call a friend, as soon as I come back, I still want food. So we don't want to come at it through this idea of substitution or distraction. We want to affirm like the ultimate of what we want. I want to be able to feel my feelings fully in a safe way. I want to feel grounded. I want to feel safe with myself. You see how different that energy is than, oh, well, I don't want to use food to da 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 da. You see how different that is? And also, it gives me something that I can create. So now, before we move on to part 3, which is the final part, I just want to say something about parts 1 and 2, because I can already hear some of you thinking, but this is so many different things that I want, and I don't know how to organize it, and da 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 da. So just know that you don't have to have complete clarity by the time you get to the end of this exercise. In fact, remove that expectation. Know that the value from this exercise also comes from just simply the practice of making those flips and catching yourself when you start to go into the negative of, oh, I don't want this, I need to get rid of this. Challenging your mind to think in the different way of, what am I creating? What do I want to build? That practice alone is worth doing this exercise. And then the other thing I'll just say about this before we move on to part 3 is you might need to hire help. Even then, this exercise helps so much, because then before you invest money with someone, before you devote, several months of your life or however long it is to really dedicate to a process, you know that that process is going to be completely aligned. So this can be a really helpful tool for you. And it is for me too, especially when people come to work with me. I ask them, what is your vision? I ask them, what are your goals? Because I'll be able to see too if what I can provide will help them build that. Like if someone writes to me and says, hey, Katie, I need to lose 20 pounds in the next 3 months for a wedding. But that's not what I teach now, and that's not what this program is about. Yes, you'll hear some of my clients in their stories talk about how losing weight was a side effect of the work that they're doing, but I also know that the more someone focuses on weight and sets weight as a goal, that's going to slow them down more than anything else and create adverse effects. And I've invested in all kinds of mentorship for all different things, and it takes a certain level of discernment. But the more you have this clarity on what you don't want and what you do want, then you can see, as you're picking your strategy to move forward, as you're picking your mentor to move forward, that they are completely aligned with your values. Because what are you going to be most consistent with? Something that is completely aligned with your values. I remember seeing on Amazon when I was struggling with binge eating, and I was looking up all the binge eating books, and I've read so many, and most of them are terrible. But I came across this one book that had so many reviews, and so much of it was positioning. Basically, you have two minds. You have, like, I forget the exact word he used, but basically like your sound mind or the real you. And then you have this pig. And when that pig comes up and says it wants to binge, you have to put it in a cage. To me, that was so mismatched from my values, not just because, like, first of all, I love pigs and they're brilliant animals. And I would never in a million years put an animal in a cage. Like, that's just not my vibe. But also, I don't want to train my brain to insult me whenever I have a craving. I don't want to insult Katie Papo. I want to love her. I want to nurture her. I want to be in her corner. I don't want to yell at her. I don't want to imagine I'm putting part of myself in a cage. So it was just completely misaligned from my values. Meanwhile, there were all these 5-star reviews for this book. And in my eyes, I couldn't even imagine, like, being the man who wrote that book. I would be embarrassed to put that out there to the world. It's so misaligned from my values. But for a whole other slew of the population, it was very much aligned. So this is about knowing yourself and also not settling. Not saying, oh, well, this helped all these other people, so I need to settle and just do it because that's what will work for me. That's not what will work for you. If you settle and you choose a path that you feel like you're not aligned with, you won't be able to be consistent with it, no matter how many other people it helps. So know that this exercise will be helpful beyond you just finding more and more what your North Star is, but it's going to help filter out what is misaligned, and it's also going to help you not settle anymore. So that was a little bit of a tangent, but I think it was important. But let's go on now to part 3 of this exercise. Part 3 is called the happily ever after. And I want you to think of this not in a way that you have to imagine your perfect happy ending, like fairy tale style, But this is more of an exercise for your mind to start thinking outside of your current reality and seeing all these things that you don't want in your life anymore. Imagine a life without those things and then what's present instead. That's also going to help you start to shift to the affirmative, see what it is you truly want to create. But even just going through this as an exercise is really helpful just to open your mind to what comes forward as what you truly want, what comes forward as possibility. So I'm going to read you this person's happily ever after. I am going to leave out some of the sentences just because it's long and some of it's repetitive. So basically, she writes, the road has been long, 35 years. There have been potholes, detours, and pit stops along the way. But now the biggest change for me is that I no longer worry or obsess about my eating or the number on the scale. Something that used to take up so much time, mental energy, and effort has now literally become a non-issue. I never would have believed it was possible for me, but I took a chance, I listened to others' positive experiences, and I took a leap of faith that this could be the answer and a new reality for me too. Boy, am I glad I listened to my gut and joined the program. I feel grateful that I have a new opportunity in this second part of my life to really focus on and enjoy what's important, and that I didn't waste one more minute of my precious time having an eating disorder rule my life. My relationships improved, my mental health is better, and the connection to my amazing body is dialed in. Thank you to all of you who have supported me, shown me that it can be done, and for restoring my hope in sustaining a healthy and peaceful relationship with food and my body now and for the rest of my life. Beautiful. So one thing that she did that I really like, bringing in that gratitude, it's another way of almost filtering what it is that you really want, because it's like, these are the things that I would be genuinely so grateful to have. These are the things I love about my life now. These are the things I love about me now. And when you write something down, and you pay attention to how that makes you feel, it's going to help you understand more and more what's most important to you. And also, when you do part 1, part 2, and now part 3 in order like that, you'll also notice there will be certain things that repeat themselves. Think of it like a light shining on this thing. Like, this is your strongest value. This is what's really important to you. So you make sure and you use that as a filter. Anything you do moving forward is completely aligned. So this is the exercise. Just to recap, the first part is just brain dump. These are my 10 reasons why. This is why it's so important to me. Then in part 2, you look back on what you wrote in part 1. You see anything that was in the negative. So I want to get rid of my binge eating. I don't want to feel out of control around food anymore. All these are framed in the negative. So now you challenge yourself in part 2 to come up with the affirmative. What is it that I do want in its place? What do I want to create? Then in part 3, you're reinforcing what your vision ultimately looks like. Your happily ever after. If this could be any way that you wanted without you settling, what do you envision for yourself? And this is important to let yourself think bigger, to also get into that place of gratitude. And this will help to ignite that fire in you of like, oh, this actually is possible for me. There have been areas in your life where you have changed. Like, it might be that you used to be a highly anxious person. Like, I used to describe myself as a depressed person or an anxious person. I was diagnosed with anxiety, depression, ADHD. I would never use those words to describe myself now. Also consider other areas of your life where you were a complete beginner and you're really good at it now. So maybe it's that when you first started at this job, you only knew X, Y, and Z. Now you know the whole freaking alphabet and train other people. Or maybe you started out a complete beginner at a sport or at a musical instrument, and now you're great at those things. Even just learning to drive, right? In the beginning, it's so awkward and we have to check everything a million times and it's so stressful getting on the highway. Now you're jamming out in the car and then you get home and you're like, oh, wow, that drive went fast. I don't even remember driving home, because it's so in your muscle memory. So just look at how many things in your life, look for the proof where you have changed significantly. And there's a new version of you now that took the place of the old version. There is no reason why this can't happen for you with food. Some of us just need the right mentor or the right strategy. This exercise will help you filter that you're choosing a path that's aligned with you completely. But regardless, you are not stuck like this. And that might just be the message you need to hear today. You're not stuck like this. Just because you have been ingrained in one way of thinking and one way of being for so long, the only reason why is because you've practiced it so much. You've rehearsed it so much. You've really embodied that role. But that doesn't mean you have to play this part forever. You can create a completely new way of thinking around food. I know this because I have lived it, and I can't even imagine being in my former brain. I can't. I can't imagine it. It feels like a different person. And that's what a lot of my clients say when they look back on when they wrote their 10 reasons why, because that's one thing I have them do at the end is go back and read what they wrote. And they're like, oh my God, the person who wrote this, she was a different person. Like, I know. It's so cool because then you're in this new normal. So if there's one thing that I'd really want you to take away from this episode, other than just doing the exercise itself, it's knowing that you're not stuck like this. Your brain can change just as it has with so many other areas of your life. And just because it hasn't yet with food doesn't mean that food is the one area that you're stuck in. It just means that you need something more aligned for where you're at right now. That's it. That's it. My prayer for you is that you give yourself permission to believe that this is possible for you, to get your hopes up, to believe that you are capable of this change, to the point where you look back and you're so grateful that you had this struggle, because you going through that and coming out the other side gave you things even better than what you could have imagined. That's my prayer for you. So before I go, I'll just say make sure to get on my email list at katiepapo.com/resources. I apologize that I don't have an exact date when I'm going to send this out or the workbook. I'm just showing up imperfectly right now. So forgive me if things are coming out imperfectly. I'm doing my best. And I will see you next week.